Welcome to another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. My name is David Gilliland. I'm one of your co-hosts here, and we're just delighted to have Brannon Poe with us out of South Carolina. He's the owner of Poe Group Advisors. Brannon, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. Glad to be here.
We're going to be exploring the ins and outs of leading a business in this seven-figure space. All of us, the listeners, and me and you, we all own businesses at this size, and we're all learning interesting lessons along the way. And it's funny how similar they are. It's like we're all in like stages of business that are really, it doesn't even matter the industry. We're just so alike in some of our challenges sometimes. And that's why we get together and we talk. So let's dive in just a little bit. Before we get going too much, Brannon, just tell us a little bit about your business and why you decided to do this. Like what kicked it off?
So a little bit about our business. We sell CPA firms. So we're business brokers. We only sell firms and we sell them all over US and Canada. We also have a online coaching workshop for owners of CPA firms. So how I got into this, well, I am a CPA. So I started my career at Ernst Young and immediately realized I absolutely hated public accounting. Like the first month of working at E&Y. So, I was kind of planning my escape from the profession from the beginning. And this opportunity kind of fell in my lap. I was out with a friend one night and he had bought a CPA firm. And he goes, yeah, you need to call this guy. All he does is sell CPA firms. And he said, maybe he has a firm that you could buy in Charleston. So I was looking to buy a CPA firm, and I got home the next morning and we were out shooting pool after a CPE event, professional development event. And I forgot who he told me to call, and I called the wrong guy. And I called a guy out of Dallas, Texas, and he said, well, I don't have any practices for sale in South Carolina because we don't represent in South Carolina. Do you want to sell CPA firms? And so I'm like, well, maybe I do. So so that's how I got started. I flew to Dallas, met with the founder of that company named Howard Holmes, and Howard became a really good mentor. I've really enjoyed Howard's leadership. And then Howard sold the company to his brother like a few years after that. And the brother and I just did not see eye to eye on how the business should go. It was a very painful experience, especially coming off of a really good experience with Howard. And I finally, it was funny, Gary, the owner called me. He says, how do we get this relationship to improve? I was like, I think this relationship's perfect just the way it is. I don't really want to change it. So I'm happy with the agreement I have. Anyway, he said, what do you want? I said, just let me go. Just let me go. And so he did. To his credit, there wasn't a lawsuit. There wasn't anything like that. We just parted ways. I proposed a agreement with him to split, and he agreed to it. And so off I go.
Nice. And so you had a handful of clients you started with and some connections out there. And then the two of you amicably decided there's plenty of room out here. Let's go build. Yeah. Let's go build with people that are aligned with us, right? Each of you can be aligned to your own purpose, your own values, and not tied and fighting each other.
Yeah.
What a great move. Well, that's great. And you guys have been growing pretty steadily. I mean, we were just talking before we got started here on the call. I mean, you're doing a 20-30% growth clip each year. That's decent growth in a services industry. That's doable. You don't run out of cash. You're moving forward. You tend to be able to pick up team members that you like along the way, not feel like you're throwing in cannon fodder. So that's an enjoyable spot to be. You've learned some things through this. There was probably decisions why you chose to grow at this rate. There's probably, like, what are some nuggets? What are some things that have helped you as you first crossed that million threshold to where you are now, which is probably 3-4x that size. What kinds of things have you learned along the journey? Maybe you could share with us.
Yeah, it's you kind of, as we were talking beforehand, it's growing a business is like a series of letting go at a certain point. And I look at like each of the major pivots or shifts in our strategy. They it was first a kind of a letting go or a elimination of things to allow the growth to come after that. So like one of the things that kind of kicked off this recent growth spurt is we became very selective on which clients we would accept. And we actually came up with a scoring system because salespeople get really, and I'm still doing sales for the company. I do a lot of the sales for our company, and I get that sales excitement just like anybody else. I kind of love, I enjoy the thrill of it, and
Yeah.
um, it's kind of like, I don't know if you've got any bird hunters in your audience, but that bird gets that scent of that bird, and then they just go for it. Whether it's a good bird or not is kind of irrelevant, for a real bird dog. And I think for sales, we had to, we were spending a lot of time on deals that just wouldn't close. And it was causing a lot of wasted work, right? Wasted effort, And so we got really clear. We created this scorecard on what was the minimum score we would take to accept a client. And if they didn't meet that score, if they were kind of borderline, we'd talk with another team member. So you'd have to get another team member to look at that scorecard together. But if they were under the bar, we just said no. And
Oh, okay.
that's what really led to our growth.
That is huge. And let's dig in just a little deeper because each one of us could have this scorecard. I mean, sales gets a lot of no's along the way, and we get really hungry for those yeses. So sometimes we're like desperately hanging on to something we shouldn't be, but other times we're closing deals we shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Right? Like up goes that bird, like boom. Like, dude, it was a sparrow. Why did you shoot a sparrow?
Yeah.
Or that was wasted ammo and time right there in life. Why did you shoot the sparrow? Or boom, like, dude, that is a falcon. We don't shoot falcons.
Yeah.
They're just right now we're in trouble. So yeah, there are issues out there. Would you be willing to share your little rubric on your
Yeah.
score? What's on the scorecard for what you measure? And then we'll try to generalize them, but go ahead and tell us.
Yeah. So we created a little acronym for internal purposes. We call it a SMARFL, so it's easy to remember.
SMARFL. Okay, go ahead.
SMARFL. But I always forget what they are because we have it written down, and if I don't have it in front of me, sometimes I forget. But the simplicity is the first one. So if a deal's got a lot of complexity in it, then it scores lower. If it's very simple, like one example of that would be, a one owner firm versus a 5 partner firm.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you got more decision
Complexity because you got to win over some people that may or may not want it, and da 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 da.
And then there are other things like that can create complexity, like if there's a competitive issue, like if an employee recently left an open shop nearby, well, that's a competitive issue. So and then
So let me ask about on the S. I just want to go a little further in. So we've got simplicity, which for your business, simplicity is a win. Another person's business, it may be higher the complexity because they know that that'll shut out competitors, right? That they play the complexity game. But simplicity is a win for you. And is it a 1 to 5 rating?
it's a 1 to 5. Yeah, we give each a 1 to 5. Some of them can actually have like negative scores.
It can be that bad.
It can
Perfect. Okay, a
be
5's a win, a 1's a not, and if you're like, this is really bad, we're going negative. Okay, give me another one. So simplicity was one of them.
Simplicity. motivation. If someone's really not motivated to sell, you're not going to sell the business.
Great.
So,
Okay. Yeah. How motivated are they?
yeah,
Great.
I'm trying to think of all of the things, the acronym. So, profitability is one. That one comes into, which one is that?
Probably the finance full.
Yeah, I can't remember, but I know it's profitability. So we look at like cash flow to owner, and that one's a big one because if a firm's not making money, then people are not going to want to buy it. So the more money it makes, the more people are going to want it. So
Yeah, you're looking at how attractive is the deal out
yeah,
there because you're brokering deals. Some of us may be looking at what kind of profit margin might we pull out of a deal
right,
because or speed to close, right?
right,
Whatever.
right. Yeah, because and you got to think about debt service and things like that. That's the way a buyer looks at a deal, right? Like how much cash flow is this going to be after debt service? Location. So location's important. Some areas have a lot more buyers than others. If it's a really rural location, there tend to be fewer buyers for a business, and so if it's in a major metropolitan area, it gets a higher score than if it's in a rural area.
Okay, cool. So what you're measuring across there then is sort of the attractiveness slash profitability of a deal on where it can be.
Yeah,
You didn't say size, though I'm sure there's something in there that's like within
yeah,
this parameter.
yeah. And I'm gonna actually that was the I'm gonna pull one up so I know, so I can actually go off the sheet here. Attitude. Attitude's that's the A.
Tell me what the attitude means. Is that the willingness?
It's subjective. It's okay. Here's our metric, our question. Is this client easy to work with? Do they value our expertise? Would you enjoy
Nice.
working with them for an extended period of time? If all of your clients were just like this one, would you enjoy coming to work every day?
Okay, I love that. So you just in essence put into your A, this attitude was a fit. A fit with us, what we're good at and what they most want, and do we like them?
Yeah,
And that's kind of cool. So you're doing some metrics in there that have to do with the deal itself. It is the complexity, the types of things they're needing, the sort of stuff we do. Uh, a psychographic, is it the kind of person we like to work with? Not a demographic. This wasn't a does this person look and act like you? This was a do they care about the things you care about? Right? And do
yeah.
they care about the things we're good at? So a real fit and match in there. And give me a couple others.
Reward. So basically, the size of the deal. You
Yeah,
know,
size of the deal and profitability we're going to get out of it.
right?
So does it make sense for us financially? Does
Yeah,
it fit what we care about? Like, will they fit our strategic focus? Does it fit on there? Is it something we would win at, knock the ball out of the park? And is it a kind of person I want to work with because
right.
I'm going to be working with them for a while? So will I find joy in it?
Yep.
I I love that. And because you put it in a scoring system, then you get to say, as long as they're above this number, it's a go. And
Yeah.
if they're under this, it's a no go, right?
Yep.
Cut it, cut that line, let that one go. Sorry,
Yep.
I'm not a bird hunter, I'm a fisher. So, we just cut the line, move on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. Uh, what I love, and if the listeners forgot how this started off, he said one of the things that launched us in our growth, a real springboard, something that moved that needle, was when we started to say no to some things and a heavy yes to the right ones. And then you made that into a process that everyone could follow into. Powerful, powerful nugget. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
I
Sure.
I bet most of us would benefit from having that kind of scorecard right early on.
It's really been helpful, and because what happens is this scorecard kind of gets woven into your thoughts, and so it changes a little bit the dynamic between the salesperson and the prospect, because I mean, you don't want to overtly seem like you're qualifying somebody, but in a way you kind of are. It's in the back of your mind. And I feel like that perception
And we
that
kind of want them feeling a little bit of like, look, I'm not begging for business. What we're doing is we're looking for a win. And if we can both win, this makes sense. And if not, it's okay that you feel like I would say no. I'll tell you what, it's the person who, it's the gal who's saying no more frequently that has their dance car filled, right? Back in
yeah,
the old days.
yeah.
That's the person that everyone's asking out. It's not the one who's running around saying yes, yes, yes to everyone, right? It's one that's got some selection going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Powerful piece. And we found that to be true as we strategically focus on winning where we should win. It's not just that the right customers come in. Now all your processes are serving the right people. And that means it's simpler processes,
Yeah.
everything, right? Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now you're in this phase, you're growing. You're probably outgrowing ways that worked before. You're growing into new ways and learning new stuff. What are some of the current pains and challenges you're facing now that likely many of our listeners are too?
It's just the letting go. I've let go of a lot of the stuff that I've called low-hanging fruit that, stuff I really shouldn't have been doing as long as I did, but I've let go of that stuff. But now I don't have the people in place to let go of some of the stuff that's really meaty in the business. And now I need a higher level team. I need team members that are going to be able to do things that that I'm doing well. So I need to find people who are talented in a way that I really haven't had to hire for in the past.
Yeah, like let's get clear. Which things?
So I've kind of identified the things that I want to be doing in the business, and I don't want to do anything else other than those things. And so I guess, David, I don't know what I don't know at this point. I know what I don't want to do, which I
Yep.
think is a good thing to be clear about, right? So I feel like I need to hire somebody to figure out how to make that happen. Like, it doesn't need to be me to figure that out. I need somebody that I can go to and hire and say, look, this is what I want to focus on. These are the sorts of things that I'm doing now that I don't want to do anymore. And I'm not saying you personally should do them, but maybe you can get them done. Maybe they're something, we're on the I guess the EOS track, and in that language, I need an integrator. I need someone that can.
Okay, you're looking for an ops person then.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a tough start there. But let me ask you first. If you don't figure out this getting in, finding the right ops person, and letting go of that, what will be the effects on either your business or your life?
Stagnation, which I think stagnation is the worst thing a business owner can experience. It's just, I've had periods where there was stagnation, and to me, that's the worst. I'd rather have a little chaos and a little stuff not going the way you want it to than just to be stagnant.
Yeah. Yeah. And the stagnant for you on a top line is 20 to 30% a year compounded.
Yeah.
So it's a big investment is what you're talking about.
Yeah. When you put it that way, it is. I hadn't thought about it that way in terms of like you're stalling your growth in a dollars and cents way.
That's what stagnation means on the numbers you shared with me of 20 to 30% growth annually.
Yeah.
It's painful. And then there's the personal growth side where you're like, you almost start to feel like is this my identity? Am I stuck here? Is it because I'm not good enough? That kind of sucks.
Yeah, yeah, you do. I mean, um, you know, when I start to feel that stagnation, I start to like, I recognize it when I go on vacation and I don't want to come home. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty good about not working on vacation. Like, I don't work at all. And this year we took a trip, and we had this wonderful, relaxing vacation. And it was a couple of days before coming home. I was like, man, I don't want to go home.
Uh,
And I know that's
because,
kind of normal, right? That's normal. But when it gets to be like a really strong, like, I could sell the business,
yeah.
and I could probably, you start having
You
those
start doing
thoughts.
calculations.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have enough tasks and responsibilities on your plate that you don't actually love
Yeah.
and you don't thrive in them anymore. Like you're like, this is old hand.
Yeah.
I've done this before. I'm
Yeah.
I'm so I'm so done with this.
Exactly. Exactly. And you just sort of have to drag yourself in. And if you feel like you're dragging yourself in every day, that's not a good place. You can't have too many of those days, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure I understood the importance of this. And I wanted you to also feel those in the two areas of, in the dollar side, again, a 20 to 30% compounding interest every year.
Yeah.
That's its
That's,
cost
yes.
to you to not solve it. Every year that doesn't go by is a 20 to 30% compounding cost to you on the base you have today. So do your numbers. And if you're at, a $3 million business, then we're talking about some serious numbers going through there, right? Getting close to $1 million on a compounding basis.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so it's a decent number. 600K to 900K or something like that is probably what you're playing with on an annual basis of being
Yeah.
stuck. Then, and that's revenue. That's not fair. That's not profits. I get that. But in a services business and in your realm, there's a good chance that, we're talking about a 20 to 30% margin on those. So it's still serious cash that we're talking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And the but I think too that just the money is almost secondary to the other, you know.
Yeah. 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 The other is like, you've got enough money at this stage in life. Most of us on this call, we could pay our bills just fine. In
Yeah.
fact, we've got a lot of things paid off.
Yeah.
So,
And I'm grateful for that. And then you kind of feel guilty in some ways, because you're like, why do I want more? And I've got plenty, right? I'm
mhm.
content. I've got plenty. I'm thankful and grateful for what I have. But I think the more is you want to play a different game, and you want to be in a different role and a different seat in the company, and that's
Yeah.
what really matters.
Yeah. And I often have this poll of like, okay, it's not about more stuff, but it's almost like it's not mine. Like there's a stewardship. If you're the religious type, you're like, I've been blessed with this. If you're, more of a universe thinking, universe has given me something I'm supposed to create value with this. And or am I stagnant? Am I just sitting on it?
Mhm. Right.
Am I just riding it? Okay. So we get it. There's
Yeah.
enough reason to change this. The reason matters, and remembering the reason matters, because the work is painful. And I don't want anyone to think it isn't. It's hard. Brannon, you get a high off of doing sales. You like it. There's a thrill. And I'll
Mhm.
tell you what, it will stagnate your growth as you're approaching 10 million if you don't shift out of that 100%.
Yep.
And so you would have to fully let go of something that today is your dopamine rush.
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's hard. It's also the lifeblood of the business is to have that pumping through. And so to let go of that is like, you got to be kidding me. David, don't talk to me about that. I was talking about operations. Like, I know. But operations isn't just fulfilling on sales. Sales is part of operations. It's the day-to-day business, right?
Yeah.
And so, but we'll leave that sacred cow for later. We'll talk. Those
That's
make
kind of what
really great steaks, and we'll talk about that later another day, Brandon, when you're
yeah.
ready for that. But let's come back to operations then. So we've got to find this diamond that's hidden amongst all this rock and sand out there, big pile. Where's the diamond that I need? And somehow, instead of digging through the whole pile, hoping we find it, we've got to call it to us. There are better ways of calling really great talent our way. And the level of talent you're looking at, and I'm going to take it beyond the EOS thinking. The EOS thinking is great on a top-down management. They're going to go out there and search for this pebble. But there is something within that system even that if you enhance it, make it much bigger than you've learned about, and it's the vision side. So even in EOS, they talk about visionary things. They talk about having your VTO and things, but they think of it more like a plan, which is good. But there's 2 steps above it that are better at calling that diamond out of that pile of rubble. Because we need someone that comes to Brannon and is like, Brannon, I love what you're doing. Remember that mentor you found? What was his name again?
Howard. Yeah.
Howard. So Brannon, we need you to be Howard to the next. Okay. So becoming that, we've got to pull the diamond out from the rubble. That then we're able to have a great dialogue. So it starts to look like this. The only reason you and his brother didn't get along was because, first of all, the way he parted with you means this was, and I'm not talking about Howard, I'm talking about his brother. The way the brother parted with you means this was a good dude.
Yes, it was.
This is an honorable individual who does business honorably, I imagine, who has real friends. So this is someone with good values. You're like, why are we not meshing? We're not talking about a bad person and a good person. We're talking about 2 good people not meshing. What's up with that? Well, so the key is that there were some things he valued that are good, noble values that were different than the good, noble values you have. And being just really clear. First, it's your own internal work. What do I care about? What do I value deeply that I base my decisions on all over? I've got to understand that. Who am I, in essence?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to go deeply philosophical, but it helps. And talking with people like, Brandon, are you married?
I am. Yep. Been married for 31 years.
There's a chance, because she spent 31 years with you, there's a chance that your spouse knows a few things about you.
Yes.
That your spouse sees you as, she values you in those ways.
Yeah.
Right? And she looks at it like, Brannon may not know this about him because it's the water he swims in or the air he breathes.
Right.
But he would never betray one of those values. This is who he is. Pulling some of those out. Your spouse can help you. You can do some of the thinking and thought work around it. You can also look at past employees that you're like, why didn't it work out with them? Or with that particular person that you worked for? Why didn't it work out with him? Well, because he didn't value or she didn't value these things that I do. Like, they just would never, no matter what, they always had to defend themselves. They could never own it. I didn't understand why. You're like, oh, owning it. Deep level of commitment, of accountability. We just say we own it. That's one of our values. We own it. Right? And so there may be a few values, and I would look at 4 or 5. You can look at past employees that you got rid of because they seem to have the talent, but they just didn't mesh with the team.
Mm-hmm.
You can look at current employees that you'd say, if I could clone them, I would all day. Right? As much as they want, I would trust them with, because there's things about them and you that are similar. We want to pull those out, and then we want to amplify them. I want to let the world know about them, especially in my hiring process. So think about that. Another one is the purpose. What's my why for doing work? So this is the how and the who. The why is this, we're not just here to sell businesses. We could sell all sorts of businesses. We're not just here to make a buck. There's something more. And if you can't figure out what the something more is, you'll have a hard time attracting from that pile of stone and rock and everything that diamond that you need
Mm-hmm.
to come forward. So get clear about your why and get clear about your who, or the core values is what we call. So we have a purpose and a core values. You get just ultra clear about those, and then now your EOS finally kind of steps in a little bit. Their VTO is more like a mission. Now we're going to go have this impact. But they don't say that. They talk about like, here's my metrics of success. These profits, these revenues, da, 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 da. Let's go a little bit higher than that and say, what's the impact we're going to have? If this is our big why, and maybe it's like, maybe it's to free the world from humdrum or from
Yeah.
stagnation. Like you hate plateauing like no one's business, Brand, and you're like leaning into it. You're like to free everyone from the shackles of oppression in their work, right? Like, okay,
Yes.
well, what's cool is that is your business. You're helping CPAs finally free themselves from that in your education and in the cell. Both of those are for freeing them, right? So you're
Yeah.
like, so our mission, the mission has to be inspiring. This is a step above what traction EOS stuff will
Mm-hmm.
do. Is this mission is like, okay, let's free 500 shackled CPAs by 2028, right? Right.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's cool. We're going to have 500 of these businesses really like free themselves and sell in a way that on May 15th, or better yet, on March 15th, tax accountants are taking time off. All right. So we got
Yeah.
this crazy idea, right? That mission, if you have a purpose and you have core values and you have a mission that's that strong, that's what we want to tell everyone about. This is the cool stuff we're about. Who wants to come play? By the way, I'm looking for someone who just loves pulling the pieces together, that's detail oriented, that likes to orchestrate all of the process, who lives and breathes processes. Like you look in their home and everything's run by process, and they love building teams and they love, all of this sort of stuff. Like, I'm looking for someone who loves that kind of work, but wants to go make this difference in the world. Now you're calling the diamond out of the pile, and that will
Yeah.
help you in the letting go, because it's hard to let go, especially if you're not sure if it's the right person.
Yeah. I got to know it's the right person. I can let go if it's the right person, but
Yeah.
I feel I have a hard time. Yeah, I'm picky. It is a diamond. It's like you can't just trust it with anybody. You got to find the right person to let go to.
Right. The right person has to fit two ways. One, they have to fit who you are and what you're about. That's your vision, purpose, values, mission. Then you can have these mission goals and this other stuff that the operator is going to be responsible to deliver against. That's the role fit. They've got the skills set. They're going to jive well with the team because they have this other fit. That's fine. That's covered. But they've got the skill set. They have the discipline.
Mm-hmm.
They have the history, and they have the hunger to go and make it happen, right? And we can tease that out. But it's not by the same old boring job posts you've seen. You'll be surprised. You can pull some great people through job posts, but when you get the clarity and you start sharing it with me, sharing it with other people you're talking to, people are going to start saying, man, Brannon's different. He's got a different kind of business. That would be cool to work with someone who really cared about something, who was trying to do something meaningful. People are looking for meaning and belonging. And that's a side that really we have not paid enough attention to in the past. And those that do find great talent. And we've seen like people in our community, sorry, my other business, not the podcast, but in the business side, boy, they are finding great number twos. And some of them are finding great partners in their business because they learned how to get clear about who am I? What am I about? Who should come play with me? Now, people are like, yeah, I can make a buck anywhere. Your ops person can make a buck anywhere. But she's looking for that right person to work with too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? She wants that, or he wants that. So anyway, hopefully that was a good start for you. But the key is we want to not be stagnant anymore. And we know that the question isn't what I need to do, it's who I need to have come and do it with me. And winning people over is not by just a paycheck. It's beyond that. And we don't trust if someone's just coming to work for the paycheck. We don't trust our baby to that person. So let's put some real time and effort into how do I attract them? How do I select for them? Just like you have a selection grid for your customers, we do the same thing for employees on a values and purpose match. And then in a role match. Do we have a scorecard? Are we working that? Is everyone measuring it the same way? And we will not accept anything above this level, right, in order to bring them in. Take your time.
Yeah.
It's worth it. It's a 20 to 30% return on investment in a compounding way.
Yeah.
So,
yes, you give me a lot of good stuff to think about, David, for sure.
well, I'm glad I didn't beat you up on the sales side. But I'll tell you what, it's miracle working. You want to, shoot past the 10 million to the 30, 40 million. It's learning to truly let go of and build a great sales team that can sell better than you ever did.
Yeah, and I'm ready to build that out, I think, but it's kind of like once I get the ops squared away,
I
and
agree. Take care of that ops first.
and then that's next.
I think you're doing it in the right order. I think
Yeah.
that's genius, and it's a great way to go. Brannon, thank you again. I mean, this was fun. I had fun.
I did too. No, this was I didn't know where we were going with this today when we started, David, but I like where we ended up. So thank you.
I'm glad to hear it. And if anyone in our listening audience happens to, one, think this would be a great place to work, or two, would like to get help selling their CPA firm, their accounting practice, Brannon, how would they get in touch with you?
So the best way is just go to our website, which is PoeGroupAdvisors.com.
Fantastic. PoeGroupAdvisors.com. And then you can tap into them. And like I said, reach out either way. Brannon has got a desire to do something more than just make a buck. And so he's going to make a lot of those, and he's going to make a difference. Thank you again for being on the show. That wraps up this episode of the 7-Figure Journey podcast, where we explore the ins and outs of the 7-figure journey. Make sure that you share this on whatever social media things, blah, 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 all the things you do to make sure other 7-figure business owners can participate and learn and grow with the rest of us. Until next time.